Hey, welcome back to Common Knowledge, the show where I am looking at Pauper, legal, Magic the Gathering cards. First up of the day. Got to be careful with this one. YouTube in the first 10 minutes or so, did they get rid of that rule? I can't remember. Glass asp. Don't take that out of context. Don't take it out of context. Glass asp is 1 green for a 2/1 snake. And whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, that player loses 2 life at the beginning of their next draw step, unless they pay 2 before that step. That is unnecessarily complicated, in my opinion. So it's a 3 mana 2/1 that could potentially do 4 damage a turn cycle. And even if you don't get the extra 2 damage, you're making them pay 2 mana. So you're getting something out of the deal either way. The problem is you're paying 3 mana for a 2/1 that is just going to get sniped off the table by literally anything and everything. And not many opponents are going to be willing to trade or willing to take the 2 damage from this. They'll probably just trade it away, and then you've spent a lot of mana on, you've spent 3 mana on something that a token kills. Is that good? Probably not. So as much fun as it is to say glass asp, I can't in good conscience give it a good score. I'm gonna give this. You know what? I like doing this, but sometimes it just works out this way. I'm gonna give it its power and toughness. I'm gonna give it a 2.1. Let's keep it going. It is from Time Spiral though, and so it does get some love in my heart, but no extra points for that. Next card is Blood Seeker, 1 and a black for a 1/1 vampire shaman from Zendikar originally, but lately from Duskmourn and House of Horror Commander, where it got new art. Okay, I remember this art. I did not see this art, so I was thinking, is this a card I've never seen before? But no, this is a card I have seen before. Bloodseeker says, whenever a creature an opponent controls enters, you may have that player lose 1 life. It's not bad. It's not bad. We've have effects like this. There is a white Phyrexian cleric that I believe is also legal in Pauper. There we go. Suture Priest, yeah. So Suture Priest, similar thing. You, whenever a creature enters the battlefield under opponent's control, you can have them lose a life. But it also has a soul sistery effect of whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain life. So it's kind of just better. We just have a creature that's better than Bloodseeker. So, I mean, you could play this in mono black decks, or you could play this in most black decks. But if you're not going to play this in Orzhov because you just play the Suture Priest if you have that. And I don't know if this effect is necessarily good enough to see a whole lot of Pauper play. Yeah, I think you want to have something that you have a little bit more control over. If your opponent is not playing a deck with many creatures, you don't get a whole lot of opportunities for this to trigger. If you're in black, so you probably have a lot of ways to destroy opponent's creatures, but it is still requiring a little bit too much to happen. Whereas the Suture Priest or a Soul Warden variant, kind of one of those, you get to, I've got a deck full of creatures here. I'm going to keep playing them. I'm going to keep gaining life. Or, when I play a creature, they lose a life or something, an Impact Tremors kind of thing. Requiring the opponent to lose creatures and then punishing them for it even more, it's nice, but I don't think it happens enough to make this worthy of most Pauper decks. It's not a common, so you don't put it in Pauper. But I think about the Kamigawa card. I'm always thinking about Kamigawa cards, but Forbidden Orchard, where when you tap it, it taps for any color, but when you tap it, you have to give an opponent a 1/1 spirit. That could be kind of fun. You have this guy on the table, you give your opponent a spirit, you find a way to kill that spirit. Maybe you have something that gives -1. Well, it can't be -1 to the whole table, because then your Bloodseeker would also be dead. But finding ways of killing creatures and giving creatures to an opponent so they can die. It is a bit of a roundabout way, but it's fun. I like that. You can't really do that in Pauper, though, or at least not as effectively as you'd need it to be a viable strategy. So Bloodseeker, I think, is a relatively disappointing but cool idea of a card, and I think I'm willing to give it a 2.7. Moving on to Vito's Inquisitor, another vampire. This one is 3 and a black for a 3/3 Vampire Knight. You can pay 1 and sacrifice another creature or artifact and put a 1/1 counter on this creature, and it gains Menace until end of turn. This isn't too bad. A sacrifice outlet, getting rid of both creatures and artifacts, things that are plentiful in Pauper. This thing gets Menace, so it gets a form of evasion, or at least forcing really tough blocks by an opponent. 4 mana's a decent amount for 3/3, but your 3/3 is growing. This is also not an effect that is limited once per turn or anything like that. It's not even something that is limited to sorcery speed only, which is also nice. You could do this on your opponent's turn. That's pretty cool. The problem, of course, is that you have to pay mana for the ability. And when you have cards like Carrion Feeder, which can just sacrifice freely, when you have cards like, what's her name? The one that scries. I wanted to say Vengeful Blood Witch, but that's a different card. Viscera Seer, that's the one I'm thinking of. Viscera Seer also sacrifice, and those are just creatures, not artifacts, but they're free. Free sack outlets make a difference. Wizards does not make a ton of those, and they certainly don't make a ton of those at the Pauper rarity or at the common rarity, because they're good. They're just really good in Pauper. I could almost see this being the top end of a mono black sacrifice Pauper deck, but I still think you'd probably just leave it out. It's nice that you could also sacrifice your blood tokens, that you could sacrifice your map tokens for this, that you could sacrifice a land, that you could pay. You could play Vault of Whispers. You could pay a black mana with the Vault of Whispers and then sacrifice the Vault of Whispers to this. That's cool. That's cool that you have that tech available to you. But I don't. It's just a little costly in the mana cost itself, and then having to pay the black mana. If it was, even if it was just one colorless mana to sacrifice another creature artifact, that would still be asking maybe a little too much. But it's close. It's really close. I think this is something you should consider, but ultimately not end up putting in your deck. So we'll give this a 4.3, I think. And we'll keep going. Pretty good card, though. Pretty good card. Druid of the Emerald Grove is 3 and a green for a 2/2 dwarf druid. When this creature enters, you search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, reveal them, and then, and only then, do you roll a d20. It's a dice. It's a die. On a roll of 9 or less, you put those cards into your hand and then shuffle. On a roll of 10 to 19, you put one of those cards onto the battlefield tapped and the other into your hand. And on a 20, you get to put both of those lands onto the battlefield tapped and then shuffle. It's interesting. Most of the time, well, I guess not most of the time. Not 9 or less, you put them in your hand. That's the bummer one. But still, you paid 4 mana for a 2/2 and put 2 cards in your hand. You effectively drew 2 cards. It's not terrible. I mean, 4 mana for a 2/2 that says draw 2 cards when you come into play. You know, that's a Mole Drifter. Except the Mole Drifter, well, I guess the Mole Drifter costs less for the evoke and more for the creature. It averages out to that. Also, the Mole Drifter flies, and also the Mole Drifter sacrifices itself. There's lots of reason you'd play Mole Drifter over this for sure. And the Mole Drifter just draws you cards. It doesn't make them both lands. But a good portion of the time, you're going to get 2 ramp out of this. You get to put 1 on the table, and you get to kind of Kodama's Reach or Cultivate, because you're putting 1 into play, and you're putting 1 into your hand. That's a strong effect. You know, if you play this on a turn where you haven't done your land drop yet, you get to potentially put 1 on the table and then put 1 into your hand, so you can also put it on the table. But then on that 20, you get to ramp twice. That's awesome. If you got that 20, which is a 1 in 20 chance, go figure. It could be nice. I don't love throwing in randomness to my Pauper decks. I can see the appeal. I can see the fun of it. The closest I've gotten is some Cascade stuff, shenanigans in one of my decks that, I don't know. We'll see what it reveals off the top of the deck, and maybe I get to play that. But for the most part, I just want to play with cards where I more or less know what they're going to do. And it does feel like kind of a bummer to play something like this and just put the lands in your hand. You could blink this. You could put a ton of lands in your hand, potentially get some on the table. But you're still paying 4 mana for a 2/2. And the ability's a little bit wonky. This probably, it's only in a Commander Legends, but I was thinking like this would have been a pretty cool thing to throw in like a limited, like if you got to play like a pre-release with a card like this in there, that would have been something. It doesn't show up there though. Although they like it enough that for Alchemy, they bumped it up to an uncommon, so they thought this card was not bad. And I don't think it's bad either. I just don't think it's quite good enough to really see consideration for a Pauper deck. So we'll give this a 3. Just a 3. Wall of Corpses is next from Mirage. It's 1 in a black for a wall. God, I do love a good wall. I even love a bad wall. In fact, I probably love a bad wall more than I like a good wall. Wall of Corpses, though, 1 in a black for the wall, 0/2. It's got Defender, like all walls do, which means it cannot attack. And you can pay 1 and sacrifice this creature to destroy target creature. This creature is blocking. Just play something with Death Touch. just play your 1 mana 1/1 with Death Touch. What's the point? What's the point of paying another mana and losing this creature to destroy something, and that you have to be blocking it because this thing can't attack? And yeah, this is pretty bad. I like the flavor of it, but I don't love the card. Feel bad for Mirage. It's got a lot of really great cards in it, but this is, at least for Pauper, not particularly one of them. We're going to give this a 1.4. Grabby Tabby is an Unfinity card, but it is black border. It doesn't have the acorn, so it's playable. It's legal in Pauper. You see right here. So we'll at least talk about it. And it is 3 and a green for a 4/3 cat guest. And this creature has vigilance as long as you control a stickered permanent. I didn't play a whole lot of Infinity. I do not profess to know all about stickers. I know that there are certain cards that when they come into play, or maybe have even activated abilities that allow you to put stickers on cards, and those stickers are able to modify cards in some way. And that even cards with stickers are legal in Pauper. There are some that are even legal in other formats as well. So let's just take this on its face, which is a 4 mana 4/3 that potentially has vigilance. 4 mana for a 4/3 that has vigilance all the time is not something I want to put in my Pauper deck, or honestly any deck. The art is the best part. It's kind of fun, but this isn't seriously going in a deck. And it's not doing much of anything serious. It's an uncard. That's what you expect. We'll give this a 1.2. Nah, yeah, 1.2. It's pretty bad. Pretty bad. Altar's Reap is 1 and a black for an instant. It says as an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature. You get to draw 2 cards. Man, there are a lot of these in Pauper. And unfortunately for Altar's Reap, there are a lot better ones. In fact, there was one that was so good, it had to be banned. That is Deadly Dispute. Anytime. There you go. Deadly Dispute, banned in Pauper. Because that one costs the same, still an instant. You can sack an artifact or a creature or an artifact. You draw 2 cards and you make a treasure. Whew, that's real good. That's real good, isn't it? So now that that's banned, the one that is the one of the day that we use most often is Fanatical Offering. There's also some other ones. One that has Flashback from Modern Horizons 3 that people play a lot as well. It's a Viscerator's Insight. But Fanatical Offering, somewhat similar to Deadly Dispute, artifact or creature, draw 2 cards, and you make a map token. So that's more useful in potential affinity decks that might want the artifact. Even a deck that doesn't necessarily want the artifact, it's a potential +1/+1 counter, or a land in your hand. That's really good. This is a really good card. We're not talking about this card. We're talking about this card. We're talking about Altar's Reap, and it's good. Don't get me wrong. Like it's an instant speed. You drop a token creature that you don't care about. You have a creature that wants to be sacrificed in a mono black sacrifice deck, or really any deck, honestly, that plays black. It's good. It's really, really good. You block with a creature that you know is going to just die in combat, whether you're chumping with it or whether you're trading with it. Well, I guess just chumping with it. If you're trading with it, you actually want the damage to go through. But if you know you're about to chump with it and just go, hey, I'm going to lose this creature anyway, why not get a couple of cards out of the deal? Pretty good. But this not being able to make a token like some of the other ones do, it being limited to just creatures instead of artifacts as well, makes it a tough sell in Pauper. So while it probably was good once, it is definitely just power creeped out at this point. Which means from a scoring perspective, I think we give this a 3.9. Yeah, I think it's a 3.9. Not quite a 4 anymore. Fire Rim Form is 1 and a red for an enchantment aura. It's got flash. It enchants a creature, and when this aura enters, enchanted creature gains first strike until the end of the turn. Enchanted creature gets +2/+0. This is relatively new from Tarkir Dragonstorm. And, new as of this recording, I suppose. And it's okay. We see a lot of instant speed things like a Sure Strike or something that gives a power boost and gives a creature first strike until the end of turn. And it's cool that this is a slight upgrade and that you get to keep the power bump turn over turn. It's still got flash, so you can play it more or less like the instant. The problem is you're generally paying an extra mana here for this. Most of those Sure Strikey style effects are just a single red mana. So is it worth paying an extra colorless mana to get that power boost forever? And maybe it is, because if you have first strike on the creature, you're not just trading with it. You're killing the other creature. You get to keep yours. So having the extra power on it later is nice. It's nice. The problem comes in, I don't think there's a deck that really needs this in Pauper right now. Your aura style decks, your Bogle's decks, they don't really splash red. I think a long time ago we talked about some 2 mana creature that I ended up buying 4 copies of just on the off chance that I might want it. That gets bigger with auras and equipment on it. But is this one of the auras and equipment that would go on said creature? Champion of the Flame, I think was what it's called. I don't think so. Man, it's almost though. It's almost. I could kind of see it. I could kind of see it, but I don't quite think it's there. I think I don't know. This is going to sound crazy. I'm the common knowledge guy, but I don't think I know all 10,226 common common Pauper legal cards in Commander, or in Pauper. Jesus, in Commander. So I have to imagine there are better red auras than this that you'd play before this. But it seems good enough that I would want to consider it for a deck, and that makes me want to give it a pretty decent score. I'm gonna give this a 4. And you know what? Even more than that, I haven't done this for a very long while. I'm gonna write this one down. Fire Rim 4. In fact, I probably own a copy or 2 of this. I was at the pre-release for this. I played. I opened a decent amount of packs for Tarkir Dragonstorm. Let's see. I mean, I bought those Champions of the Flame. Maybe this is something that supplements it. Maybe I'm building a whole new Boros or even mono red equipment or a deck. I don't think I am, but I guess stranger things have happened. I'm gonna stick with my 4, and we're gonna keep on going. Did I mark this one down? I don't know if I marked this one down. I'm gonna make a mark, but we'll probably do a bonus card anyway, so we'll make it up. Wormskin Forger is 5 green for a 2/2 elf warrior, 7 mana for a 2/2. It's got to do something, right? Hopefully it does. When this creature enters, you distribute 3 +1/+1 counters among 1, 2, or 3 creatures. Could be yours, could be your opponent's. Probably going to be yours. This is from Mirrodin. I miss Mirrodin. I love Mirrodin. What a great, well, too good. Too good of a set, honestly. Ruined Magic there for a bit, or ruined competitive Magic. I was perfectly fine with it. I was in high school. I just wanted to play with cool cards, and there were a lot of cool cards in Mirrodin. Unfortunately, if you were not an artifact card in Mirrodin, you were probably not nearly as good as you can see here with Wormskin Forger. I love this art though. Justin Sweet did a fantastic job on this one. I also like worms. This isn't a worm, but it is at least in the worm realm. Okay, think of it this way. This is 7 mana for what is essentially a 5/5. Sure, you could put those 1/1 counters on something else. Maybe you get more value out of it there. But this is putting 5 power on the table for 7 mana. Vanilla 7 mana. Or vanilla power, by the way. You're not getting First Strike or Trample or anything like that. I think these days a card like this would probably say something like, that has the text that it has, distribute the 3 +1/+1 counters among the creatures, and then it would also say creatures with +1/+1 counters on them have trample. And I still don't think we'd be talking then either, but it would be much closer to playable. For now, the best / potentially only good thing about this card is the art. And that doesn't get us points, unfortunately. So we're going to end up giving this thing a 1.6, I think, and keep it going. Is this our final real card of the day, potentially, unless I was off on my count? But we're going to do a bonus card after this. But this is Viscerid Deepwalker, also from Time Spiral. 2 Time Spiral cards in the same video. I'm a lucky guy, apparently. Viscerid Deepwalker is 4 and a blue for a 2/3 Hominid warrior. It's got a fire breathing style effect where you can pay a blue mana and this creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. And it also has Suspend 4. I think this is our first card with Suspend. So you play a blue mana rather than cast. So I'll just read the thing. Suspend 4 for a blue mana. What is Suspend? What is Suspend 4 specifically? Rather than cast this card from your hand, you can pay 1 blue mana and exile it with 4 time counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, you remove a time counter from it. And when the last time counter is removed, you can cast this card without paying its mana cost. And it has haste. It's kind of like one of the only ways blue cards get haste, but it's interesting. I have a commander deck that has Joyra of the Gitu, and it's gross. It just plays a bunch of Joyra of the Gitu allows you to just make cards in your hand get suspend, so you just can suspend the biggest, nastiest threats you've ever seen, and a few turns later you just get those threats. It does make you the arch enemy of the table, and people will murder you. But it's also fun to force people to murder you. I enjoy that sometimes. This card, obviously not so good, being a common. It is cool though that you're getting. I mean, you're getting what the game thinks is a 5 mana worth creature, and you're getting it for 1 mana. What a deal. What a discount, right? You just have to live for a handful of turns. You could probably do that, maybe. You get to play this on 1. Your opponent isn't even set up yet. You get to play a card and start a clock and think, all right, we'll see what happens. And when this thing comes out of suspend and gets cast on turn 5. Let's say you do get to cast it on turn 1. So four turns later, turn 5 comes out. You got a 2/3 out there for free that turn. You didn't pay for it that turn. You got all your mana up. You potentially have 5 lands out there. Maybe they're all islands. Maybe you dump all of your island mana, all your blue mana into this, and you make yourself a 7/3 on turn 5. Nope, now that I'm saying it, it's still bad. Still bad. I tried to come up with a scenario where this card might be cool, and the answer is it's just not. It's just not. I think the coolest thing about this card is that it is a Homerid, that it's a callback to some very old Magic sets, and that it's in Time Spiral. Time Spiral rules, but this is not one of the cards that rules about Time Spiral. It's, I wanted to say fine. I don't even think it's fine. We'll give this a 1 point. I did just give like another card a 1.6, right? Let's give this a 1.6 as well. It's not great. Bonus card or the 10th card, whichever counts. Last Thoughts. Perfect. Last card of the day, Last Thoughts. Last Thoughts is 3 and a blue for a sorcery. You draw a card. That's bad. 4 mana to draw 1 card? Why would you ever play that? Well, there's a little bit more text. It also has Cipher. You may then exile this card when you play it, and it gets encoded onto a creature you control. Whenever that creature deals combat damage to a player, its controller may cast a copy of the encoded card without paying its mana cost. You get it for free. So here's the deal. This is not an aura or something. This is not, some kind of token that shows up on the battlefield. Your opponent can't get rid of the cipher part. They can get rid of the creature, and then it's done. If the creature gets blinked or something, or goes back to your hand and you replay it, it loses this encoded status. But if it stays on the field, it remembers that it has this ability. It kind of just gains an extra ability that says when it deals combat damage, cast or do the thing on the card. In this instance, draw a card. That's still a lot of setup. There's plenty of cards out there for cheaper. You could get a creature that is unblockable for a single blue mana. You could then get a Curiosity effect, maybe like Curiosity, for 1 or 2 mana. can't remember what curiosity. I think it's only a single mana that says when this creature deals combat damage, draw a card. And then you've basically done this effect even better, and you paid 2 to 3 mana for it instead of 4 mana for this. I don't know. I think the Cypher cards are interesting. I have a couple of Cypher cards in a mono black commander deck that is all about getting in for damage and stealing opponents' stuff, stealing opponents' cards off the top of their library. So it's kind of cool that you have a lot of unblockable creatures there that you get a couple of extra effects. It's nice. But I think Cypher's a little complicated for some people if they haven't dealt with it before, both playing it and playing against it. And I think a lot of Cypher cards WotC was maybe a little too careful with, that they just don't do well enough. They're not strong enough to really justify. Like this is a fine effect. Draw a card, and then every time your creature deals damage, you draw another card. Cool. But 4 mana to play this once, and then a creature drawing a card every turn, each of your turns anyway. I still don't think that's really worth 4 mana. So I can't in good conscience give this much of a good score. I feel like I keep saying conscience, good conscience. I can't give this a good score. So I think I'll give this a 2.1. And we will leave last thoughts as our last thoughts. We'll see you next time.